Um, Hi all, this is my very first video where I am going to be formally teaching an audience something. So let's get started. Why you fail at everything you start. Now, a lot of us, I'm sure a lot of you can relate that you've had this instance in your life. You're in your room at 3 a.m. and you're scrolling on your phone, and suddenly you get this urge to just get up and do something productive, and do something that is creative, and something that will really make you feel fulfilled. Now, this could be anything from music to creative endeavors such as drawing or painting, or it could be just studying. It could be going to the gym, which is one that is very, I see that very commonly, and I'm seeing it around me. I'm seeing so many guys having this sudden urge to really get into the gym. And a lot of, if you think about it, a lot of these activities, they kind of work as what should we call it? They work as pyramid schemes, because you see one person get onto this habit and they get really good at it, and you see someone get successful at something, and you want to replicate that success. So you kind of just do what they did, and you try to do it, but then you come across these times where you aren't able to progress from that very foundational stage, and you really struggle to find motivation to continue to work hard and go up another level. So today I'm going to explain to you why this happens, and some really important advice on how you can overcome this. So what I like to call this is, actually I don't have a name for it yet, but this phenomenon is basically the difference between what you perceive and how good you are. So let's start off with talking about me, for example. So let's say I'm really trying to play the drums, and I'm trying to get good at playing the drums. So I'm gonna start off at a very foundational stage. So think of this as a graph, and the x-axis is time. I hope it is visible. And the y-axis is let's just say how good someone is. And so whenever you start off with anything, uh, you always start off at zero, the point zero. So let's call this the blue line, right? Now the blue line is your level of skill, and the red line is your vision. Now what your vision is, it is how you perceive something to be good or bad. So I'll give you an example. So say you're really into art, and your vision at the moment, if you're actually not into art, you might see something that's very colorful and just a regular painting that's quite colorful, and you might find that really attractive to you. You might find that very appealing. But to say someone who has a major in fine arts, they might see something like that and they might call it mediocre, or they might even call it bad. And that's because they've been looking at these things and observing them for a large amount of time. And what that kind of does, it kind of makes you see things on a finer scale, on a more trivial scale. You get to see the details more defined. So let's say you start off with something. Now over here, I'm going to give you two examples. One is physical activity, and the second is a creative activity. So in the case of a creative activity, say I'm starting with drawing or painting. Now I have the very basic skills of where I know how to use a pencil, or I know how to use a lot of people don't even know how to use paintbrushes, to be honest. I never knew I still don't know how to use a paintbrush, if I'm going to be honest. Let's say you just barely know how to use a pencil, right? And we're talking about drawing. And you have a very minor amount of comprehension of what is a good drawing, what is a bad drawing. So let's say your vision is somewhere over here. So this is your vision. Let me just double check if yep, all set. So yeah, so over here we're talking about vision and skill. Now, once you do start with your drawing practice and you start to get better, you start to learn to create 3D shapes, 2D and 3D shapes, you learn how to make the right strokes, which is also kind of advanced, if I'm being honest. A lot of people don't know how to make the right strokes with the pencil, but anyway, including me. So your skill starts to go up a level, and you see a sharp incline. And this is great. It feels great to start getting good at something, especially. And this I see this with pretty much anything anyone picks up, where they start something, they learn the very basics, and then they realize, okay, you know what, maybe this wasn't that hard. Hopefully, if you have a good teacher, that is the case. If you have good resources, and your skill goes up slightly. However, your vision still stays the same. So it's kind of it's kind of stagnating, and it hits this point right here where these two intersect. Your vision and skill intersect. Now this point right here, it is very important, because this is the part where you start to have fluctuating emotions and feelings towards this activity that you're doing. So this I'm going to use the example of, say, going to the gym. This is the point where you start your vision of doing a practice. So like football, you kind of start to meet your expectations when it comes to football, right? Or going to the gym, you start to meet your expectation when it comes to building muscle. And you've hit this very important point. Now what happens after this, because your vision stays the same and your skill kind of goes up, you kind of sit and you self-evaluate and you realize, holy shit, I'm getting good at this. My skill is kind of leveling up. And that feels really good. So let's say this has been going at a stage like this. Now all of a sudden it kind of shoots up, because you've gained this confidence, and that further enables you to elevate your level of skill. Now you'll see another surge in this. But now the problem with this, you'll see this kind of shoot up. But the problem with this is that your vision, your ability to see how good something is, your ability to evaluate a piece of art, your ability to evaluate how good a drawing is, that also kind of goes up, because you've kind of increased the bar. The bar's gone higher up, and now you've kind of realized, damn, I'm able to see things in a different way now. You start to notice the details, and this also shoots up. Now in this scenario, this is your first real test of self-discipline, your integrity, and how motivated you are. This point right here, and this is the point that kind of kills your motivation. It kind of kills your will to continue working. If it doesn't kill it, then it injures it pretty badly. And this is the point where your vision it really just exceeds your skill, how good you are at something. And you think to yourself and you realize, holy shit, well, I'm not actually as good at this, because you see someone else at the gym who's bigger than you, who's leaner than you. You see an artist who has better work than you. They have the smoother lines, they have the right gradients, they have the right choice of color. And you start to see these things, and then you look back on yourself, you see that you aren't really that muscular after all. Like, you look back at some pictures, you aren't really that muscular, you aren't lean, you're kind of fat, or you are in in the case of art, you're actually not that good at drawing, illustrating, whatever it is, and your vision, it kind of exceeds your skill. And this is the point where most people end up quitting something, because this is where I kind of quitted the piano when I was 7 or 8 years old. This is the point where I quit going to the gym in 2021. Yeah, and I did eventually get back on, but at that point I kind of realized that, okay, this is, I didn't realize it, but I, in my head, it felt like whatever I was doing had really no purpose. It wasn't helping me improve that much, as much as I thought it was at first. And I'm sure you'll be able to relate to this, where you might have had instances where you think, you know what, maybe I'm getting good at this. I'm getting good at this thing, and you are getting good at it, but then you hit a point where you see other people or external sources, or people who are just doing the same thing and they're doing it better than you, and you kind of realize, holy shit, so I wasn't as good as I thought, and that can be very demoralizing. It can absolutely kill your spirit. And yeah, this is a very difficult point, and the way I see it, the most important way to kind of realize, to kind of get past this point, is to realize that this is natural, this is supposed to happen. You're supposed to realize that when you start off with something, your boundaries are very small. This is a separate graph which I'm going to show you later. But you have to kind of realize that, oh, you know what, this is natural, like this happens to most people. And yeah, your vision goes up, and eventually what happens is that this also starts to stagnate. And if you do end up getting past this point, which not a lot of people do, and if you do, then that probably means that you do have this level of discipline, you do have this level of motivation. Not motivation, because this is what kills your motivation. Discipline is what you fall back on when you don't have motivation. And this, it slowly starts to build back up, and then once again you hit another point where you've exceeded your vision, you've exceeded how you evaluate things, and you get better, and you don't realize how good you are, and you've gotten better than that certain point. And now what happens is that the same thing repeats again. So this is a cycle. This keeps happening with the same activity. No matter what you're doing, this will keep happening, where you kind of realize that, oh, you can get better, and then you do get better, and then you kind of realize that it's like a feedback loop. But it's a very difficult one to navigate, and it does require a lot of discipline. And once again, you kind of realize, oh, I've gotten better at this, and this starts to shoot up again. And the same thing, you gain confidence from realizing that you've gone up a level, and this starts to go up again as well. And so this kind of keeps repeating itself. And I honestly, I don't even see this as something that applies only to skills that you can level up. It could be something like the way you look, your self-confidence. The red line could be your confidence, the blue line could be how good you look, how charismatic you are, all of these things. And as you can see, if you do erase the red line, and you do just look at how good you've gotten over time, you realize that you've gone up quite a lot. You've had these phases where you felt like, maybe I'm not good, maybe maybe I wasn't supposed. Am I like? Is my head even in frame? I don't know. You kind of realize that wow, I've come really far, and you look back at the point of origin, and you're like, God damn, I'm pretty good at this. Now, a lot of times you will meet people while starting a new activity. Once again, I'm going to use the example of, let's say, playing football, or let's say playing, uh, going to the gym, doing anything. I actually really like this example in terms of football because, or sports in general, because I've noticed that a lot of times when, so say I join a new school, right? I joined the school in 8th grade, where what exactly happened was everyone was quite decent at football. And one of the guys, one of the new joinees, he said that, oh, I'm not that great at football. I mean, I'm mediocre. Like I can just play. I can kick the ball around. And after the first couple of training sessions, people kind of found out that he was pretty much the best player in the whole school, because he was that good, and he was that humble, because he had like this very tight gap between the blue line and the red line, where it was where at whatever point in time he was, regardless of where he was. So this could have been, now if you look at any point in time, so say this could have been the 6th grade, this could have been the 7th grade, and this could have been the 8th grade. You look at any point on here and you realize that the gap between these two lines, it's always been quite small. So this person, they've always considered themselves to be quite mediocre at this thing, whereas they've just gotten better and better and better. And this is kind of the ideal scenario where you kind of perceive yourself to not be where you can be. And this is where arrogance is very dangerous. This is where I made mistakes in studies, where I thought I was very good at maths, where I thought I got really good at studies in general. I was quite good. I was getting, I remember I got a total of, what was it, 17.4 out of 18 in my checkpoints in 8th grade. And before that, I was straight A student. And I got so overconfident because this, my perception of myself, my skill, it was quite high. And then it got to a point where I got so arrogant and overconfident that I stopped trying. And this did not only just stagnate, this went all the way down. I went super low. And yeah, it really messed me up. And if I had the line of vision, at the start I always considered myself, like, I didn't even think, when you're that young, you don't really think about how good you are at something, you just kind of roll with it. I kind of reached this point over here where I was meeting my perception of how good I should be. And I kind of exceeded it at one point. And as my perception continued to it just kind of stagnated, my skill it just plummeted. And this is a mistake I've seen a lot of people make, and this is a mistake that a lot of gifted students tend to make. And well, I don't have enough time to explain all my ideas, so I might make a part 2 on this. But basically, I do implore you to think about any skill that you've leveled up over time, or even leveled down. Any skill that you've indulged in throughout your life, and make a graph of your own, where you kind of compare your perception and how good you were at that thing. And just kind of make a graph with respect to time, and maybe you'll be able to really introspect on this thing, and you might be able to relate as well. And this will really enable you to avoid this mistake of keeping the gap too low. Like if at this point this is pretty much the point of no return. This is it's very this reaching this area is incredibly dangerous because it really messes you up, and you just need to learn to maintain this type of gap. Now obviously if the gap is too high, then you might be demoralized in the first place. But yeah, those are my thoughts for today. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff, and yeah, I'll see you on the second part.